Greetings, YouTube. It's Saint Riot, that guy who makes builds in Elden Ring and then invades with the builds in Elden Ring and then puts the videos for YouTube to watch them. It's me. And we're playing with Milady. I have absolutely been infatuated with this weapon. Unlike a lot of other stuff in Elden Ring, this is like, I think, one of like the hardest things in the world to win invasions with, depending on what type of invasion you get, obviously. But if you get one of those invasions where it's lasers all the time, you know, it can be hard to win with Milady. And so in the last video where I was doing invasions with this weapon, the new light greatsword, I said I was going to get a laser. So I got a laser. Check out my laser. You know, I'm a quality build. This is tradition at this point, to make a meta level quality build. Quality just means equal strength and dex. It's what it was called back in Demon Souls, and we have not changed that phrase since. So this is a quality build, equal strength and dex. Doesn't have to be equal strength and dex. It could be, you know, if you want to two-hand a weapon and you want to save some stats, you could go like 26 strength, so that when you two-hand, you're getting 40, and then go 40 dex, right? Or, you know, something like that. Take advantage of the two-hand multiplier, basically. If you wanted to do that, you could make a quality build that way. That's also a quality build. But this one just goes straight down the line. I've got 49 strength and 49 dex. The weapons are quality infused. I guess it was kind of nice of them to bring back that title as the infusion title, quality, because we were going to call it that anyway, right? And now it makes sense again. Like back in Dark Souls 3, that wasn't called quality, I don't think. And back in Dark Souls 2, you couldn't do that. It wasn't allowed. And back in Dark Souls 1, you also couldn't do it, but certain weapons were just quality weapons. Black Knight weapons. But the equal strength and dex, you know, it's not great for Milady. If you're going to do one-handed like I'm typically doing, you'd be better off just going straight dex. You know, and having 80 dex and keen infuse. But like I said, it's tradition at this point. So I'm not gonna change that. And so I have started using this weapon since the DLC come out, and I love it. You can see how I default to the heavy attacks instead of the light attacks a lot. Like right there, that heavy attack as like a turn and burn is almost like a built-in spinning slash. It's like a half-assed spinning slash. It's really good. It hits multiple opponents. It can, you know, do some decent damage. It hits twice, and it can proc the Rotted Wingsword insignia, which I have on, as well as Millicent's prosthesis, as well as the spiky cracked tear in my wondrous physic. So I've got 3 different consecutive attack buffs, right? 3 different things that buff consecutive attacks, and that's what we roll with. I talked about in the last video that I made, it can be kind of difficult to decide what do you want to do with Milady once you've got it. You know, you can focus on guard counters, like if you're going with the deflecting hard tier, and you slap on the curved sword talisman, your guard counters are going to do like some serious damage. You can obviously focus on the multi-hit stuff. If you're playing sword and shields, you can focus on parries and do the dagger talisman and maybe like the blade of mercy to give yourself a buff after a riposte or after a backstab. Or you could go Alexander's Jar Shard and the spear talisman, and you could focus on like that heavy thrust attack on the wing stance as like a counter attack. You know, there's a million different ways that you could play this weapon, and they're all a lot of fun. I am like purposefully trying to break myself of changing the build mid-fight, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I was set up for criticals, but I can't parry anybody right now, so it would be better to focus on the Ash of War. I am trying to, like, you know, manually break myself of that habit. These goddamn lightning axes, they are, like, one-on-one, they are so, like, Milady can deal with them really well. The problem is, like, 3v1, it's so hard to use that wing stance to counter. It's a perfect counter for that move right there. The big axe, the great axe, that version of it, it's a little worse because that move has hyper armor, and the wing stance heavy attack does not do enough damage to interrupt the hyper armor of the great axe Ash of War. So it's you have to be a little more picky with that one, but you know, it'll still give you like a nice counter attack, which is nice. I've got Alexander's Jar Shard, I've got the Millicent's Prosthesis, I've got the Rotted Wing Sword Insignia, and I think my final talisman is the Curved Sword Talisman. Sometimes I get in a mood and I decide that I'm going to go with the Dagger Talisman, but I'm trying to stop myself from like trying to make swaps mid-fight and just deal with what I've got. Since I have picked up Ansbach's bow as like a laser for this build, that it's nice having the Alexander's Jar Shard, and that's part of the reason that I'm not using like the talisman swaps as frequently. The one time I'm going to use... There you go. That's a great example of what that looks like. The one time I'm going to do talisman swaps is going to be to get my arrow talismans out. Because I'm going to, you know, be using the bow and the Ash of War to try and deal with somebody who's shooting lasers at me. As you can see, when you have a laser to shoot back at people, this thing cleans up. Because now they can't just bully you from at range, you know? They can't just bully you from 1,000 feet away. You know, typically the only thing I have on this quality build is like a jar cannon, which is still great, and I still, you know, recommend you have that. But Ansbach bow slaps as like that middle range. Sometimes I get in trouble. I think my opponent is far enough away for me to pull out the jar cannon. I pull it out, and then they rush me down, and they weren't far enough away for me to have been pulling it out. That's what he said. That's what he pulled it out in front of the police. Stop, police. Stop pulling it out. You're not allowed to do that. But an interesting thing happens. Look at this. When you start carrying around a laser, you start having less fights with lasers. It's the damnedest thing. It's the damnedest thing. I have gone out of my way to save a lot of the fights where I used the bow to deal with people who were, you know, just standing back and shooting lasers at me. You know, I've made sure that that footage ended up in this video, but the entire time I was doing invasions, I was thinking to myself, like, it's crazy how few lasers I'm actually encountering now. Now that I have this bow, so is the answer that, like, oh, it's just, you know, weird luck? That's what it is. It's just weird luck that you equipped Ansbach's bow with fan shot, and now you're encountering less lasers. Or is it the fact that because I can pull out the bow, they are showing me less lasers because I can just shoot lasers back at them? Honestly, either way, the end result is the same, and that's all that I really care about. It's been a lot of fun doing this. It feels like Dark Souls 3 again. Back when I had to try to find a way to win with the setup that I liked. When the game was pretty new, straight swords weren't necessarily like super hype. in Dark Souls 3. They were okay. They were always okay. And then by the time the game got done getting patched, straight swords were like really good. But there was a lot of better stuff for a long period of time. You know, the Karthus Curved Sword, the Black Knight Glaive, the Black Knight Greatsword, just Goddard's, which is, I know, technically a straight sword, but it's 2 straight swords. Sellsword Twin Blades. You know, there was always something that was sort of like better than straight swords, and so it was kind of hard to win with straight swords for a period of time. It was. I know that you might not believe that about Dark Souls 3, especially if maybe you did invasions in Dark Souls 3, but it was like way late into the game's life cycle. You probably won't remember that, but go watch some of my really old videos and you'll see what I'm talking about. Milady feels like that. Like, I have to, you know, find a way to win because there's so much better stuff, but this is what I want to use, right? And so I'm gonna stick with that. Also, shout out to the DLC for giving me string that I can buy. Now I can buy string, so I can make my own drawstring grease without having to dupe it and feeling like a scumbag because I'm duping. And I love that. As you just saw, after a parry, you know, taking the drawstring grease riposte. That shit slaps. Nice little extra 200 damage on a riposte or whatever, you know. And I'm pretty sure I don't have the dagger talisman on at this point. If I did, that probably would have killed both of those players. And earlier in the video, I think I said I decided to pull out the dagger talisman at some point. That right there is probably what made me decide to run with the dagger talisman. If I get a parry on like the 3v1, I deserve to get rid of somebody. That's just fair. But yeah, it's interesting that like so much of the stuff in Elden Ring, just the stuff that I was interested in and stuff that I liked was just good. Maybe not the best, like carrying Greatsword, the spell. You know, that's not great, but like it has a place and you can do stuff with it, and you can, you know, combo carrying Piercer, or you can combo a straight sword light attack after carrying Greatsword attack. You know, there were ways to find things that, you know, were doable. Plus, like if you're playing that build, you have access to stuff, you know, at range, like the Cannon of Hyma, or you know, Starlight Shower, or whatever, Star Shower, or whatever. You know, you basically had like lasers built into your build if you needed them, but you don't really have that with a quality build unless you use a bow, and there's no reason not to. Also, finally, the Crucible Knight decides he's gonna stop watching me get bullied. I appreciate that. Thank you. But the builds that I made, it was never like my pyro build. You know, I love O-Flame. I love that O-Flame can do cool combos. That rules. And it's not easy to hit, but like you have, you know, Giant's Flame Take Thee on the build, right? And like that's a laser, and it's a really good laser too. And since my builds were always like spec'd out, like this is my pyro build, it's going to be spec'd out to do pyro stuff. Giant's Flame Take Thee is going to absolutely do real damage on a build like that. And so there was always something that I could take and add to my build that would serve as like a medium range option that I could use. And then I could always use the Jar Cannon or the Ballista as like my long range option, even on my mage builds and stuff. But it feels, I feel kind of stupid. Like, why did it take me so long to just equip a bow? I'll tell you why. You're saying, Saint, what on earth? These new bows are really good, first and foremost. Like, they blow all the other bows out of the water. And I'm using both of them. I've got the bone blade, no, the bone bow, or whatever it's called, as well as Ansbach's bow. I use them both. And, like, they are the best bows, I think, in the game, period. Maybe that was what finally, like, pushed me over the edge and made me decide to try using a bow. Or maybe what happened was that rapscallion, dang it JM, you know, posting his bow builds, getting YouTube gankers all excited to spam arrows, and it ruined bows for me. It's all dang it JM's fault, maybe. But now here I am, become the thing that I swore to destroy. But you know, it's fine. It's good actually to do that. I hold the levers of power. My enemies would surely vanquish me with the levers of power. Now if it's actually irresponsible if I don't destroy my enemies with the levers of power. Do you understand? Like, I'm going to do good things, right? I'm going to do good stuff. And I know that I'm going to do good stuff. And I know that my enemies, they want to do evil, right? And since they want to do evil, and I want to do good, it would be evil for me to spare them. And so I have to use the levers of power to my advantage. The levers of power, of course, being, you know, a bow and arrow in a video game. You know, it's as simple as that, really. Did he do that, like, on purpose? Or did he just do the accidental gesture? Because it was, like, such a random thing to do, but he did it at, like, the perfect time. I don't know. I have not decided. Part of me thinks he did it on purpose, and, like, he had more time to cue that up than I thought he did, and, like, maybe he's just used to doing it. And then another part of me is like, there's no way some random co-opper just pulled out that gesture that quick. I don't know. But yeah, I love it. I love Milady. I love, like, having sword fights in this game. The problem is, like, can you make a sword fight happen? And a lot of times the answer is you can't make a sword fight happen because your opponent doesn't want to have a sword fight. Your opponent wants to have a laser fight. And you have to, you know, fight lasers with lasers. Old Scruff McGruff said. He said, "Fight lasers with lasers," and that's I've taken old Scruff McGruff, Chicago, Illinois, 60653's advice to heart. I don't know if that's the actual zip code, but I know it's close. You know, Scruff McGruff, Chicago, Illinois, 606 something. But yeah, there's probably a bunch of, like, 20-somethings and teenagers watching this video, and they're like, what the hell is Scruff McGruff? Look it up. It's history. See, look at this. This is the type of guy I am. I want to have a sword fight with Wesley. And so I was letting Wesley, like, deal with the ants. You know, I wanted to freak him out a little bit and, like, stay on his ass, but, like, I wanted him to win. But I totally forgot that this other guy was here. I thought he had died. I thought he just died to ants or whatever. But he hadn't died. And he's got one of those annoying weapons I was talking about last time, where you can just throw it for free. It's just like a free thing to just throw that. Yeah, I think it's free. If it costs FP, it doesn't cost enough. I know that. Once again, all right, there we go. You know, like, I want Wesley to feel like he's having to earn this, but I did want to, like, you know, actually have a fight with him, and now I get that, and I got to shoot lasers, and I got to have a sword fight, and if you'll notice, I'm, like, waving at people after invasions. I'm in such a better mood since adding a bow and arrow to my build. It's crazy. how much that has done for my mood, right? Because I don't have to sit there and just get shot at for 4 minutes, and have 4 minutes to get angry about being shot at for 4 minutes, right? It's like it's a burden has been lifted off of my shoulders. Look at this. Look how clean this is, and tell me you don't love this sword. Whack, whack, boom. How sick is that? With the guard break, and then the free follow-up, and then the next follow-up. It's so sick. It's so absolutely sick. Anyway, this build is level 138. 49 strength, 49 dex, 60 vigor, and like 20-something endurance, I think. Started as a vagabond, obviously. Look at this. Boom. Boom. Backstab. Too sexy. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Until then, later, y'all.